he got an awfully good foundation as a 2-year-old last year. Did that give you the flexibility to do some different things with him early on in this 3-year-old season?
Oh, for sure, Mark. Getting those points in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile just enabled us to not go chasing points in a 3-year-old campaign. And when Team Red, when we all met up and talked shortly after the Breeders' Cup, that the game plan was to give him a month of a whole lot of quiet time there in the barn and then try to have a 2-race two preps before the Kentucky Derby, and very happy the way things have unfolded so far.
Doug, we're going to have a shot of Nyquist on the screen in a moment. Would you please take a moment, describe him for our audience? What's he look like physically, and how much has he changed from 2 to 3?
Physically, he's an absolute handsome dude. Good height, very long, good length, a lot of leg. If he was a human, he'd be a well-dressed guy that goes to bed early and he's in the gym most of the day. And, he's just a very classy horse, and he's very quiet in his stall. And yet, when he walks on the track, he'll walk on and off the track. But when he starts his exercise, he gives everything he's got. He's very, he enjoys working out, and he's just a classy dude.
Well, I think it's fair to say, somewhat unusual 2-race schedule this year began with the San Vicente going 7/8, and then 7 weeks after that race came the Florida Derby. For our audience, Nyquist number 4 in here. Doug, you shipped cross country, $1 million bonus involved. Boy, did he run big. Talk about this effort, if you would.
Oh, he really did. It was something that we were really optimistic about, but until you do it, you just never know. And he shipped to Kentucky like a gentleman, and for the Breeders' Cup, and he shipped to Florida like a gentleman. And it was very hot, humid, and I'd never seen Nyquist sweat up the way he did going to and from the track. But we all were. We were all just drenched going to and from the track. But it just didn't faze him, and he handled everything like a total pro, and Mohaymen and the rest of the field, it was a quality field, and then it rained a little bit, so the track was a little bit, unsure footing, and he just handled everything, and just, again, shows what a special horse he is.
They are heading down the backstretch now to the far turn. Doug, when he gets into the stretch, he ducked out briefly. What caused that?
It's a little bit of a playboy in him. He likes to do that a little bit, and it's okay as long as he keeps it in the wire first. It's okay. But Mario sensed Mohaymen was coming, so he did his little Angel Cordero version and floated out a little wide to make sure he didn't give him the smoothest of journeys. And Mario, he gave me goosebumps as he was telling me after the race that as he looked back, he could hear the rider on Mohaymen smooching and hitting, and he said, "Okay, I think I'm in pretty good shape here." So, I think it was just him pulling away from a quality group of horses and playing around, and that's just him, and he's an amazing horse.
Doug, the San Vicente obviously moved him forward for the Florida Derby. Do you expect the same from the Florida Derby to the Kentucky Derby?
Well, I do. That was kind of the intention of the San Vicente, and then 7 weeks to the Florida Derby, and then 5 weeks to the Kentucky Derby, is that we're bringing over a horse who's extremely fresh. He's tested multiple times around 2 turns, and he's tested traveling, and he's won on a variety of different types of tracks. So we're expecting him to move forward on May 7th, and he's not showing anything to us that says he won't.
Are you pleased with the progress he's made from 2 to 3?
Very much so. Look, he always had talent, but in terms of learning how to use his talent, there's no question he really didn't even know what he was doing at age 2, and that includes the Kentucky Jockey Club at the end of the year down here at Churchill Downs, in which he was third over a sloppy track. He had not gotten very professional at that point. I believe, going into the Louisiana Derby, he was at his professional best and had made that mental turn of understanding what racing is about.
Well, you have taken us right up to part 2 of the horror trips. This is the Louisiana Derby. For our audience, as we pick it up, going to the far turn, Mo Tom will be next to last at the top of the screen. You told us earlier, Tom, he was doing his very, very best going into this race. Talk about what happened.
So, this is a situation where we had a lot of horse and we were making our run. And a decision had to be made as to what to do. We went towards the inside. Look, when you decide to go to the rail, when you're making a move, if something occurs that makes you alter your course, there's only one way you can go, and that's going to be away from the rail, because obviously if you go left, you're going to hit the rail. And we put ourselves in a bad spot. It didn't work out. And, all I can say after that is if you watch the race closely as they pass the finish line, they pan to the winner. That's Mo Tom that's galloping out in front of the Louisiana Derby winner, Gunrunner.
Tom, does Mo Tom possess, I guess I'll phrase it, the quick acceleration where the rider can use him to possibly get out of tight spots? Does he possess that type of acceleration?
Well, that's where the trouble lies. So, look, to preface that, he is the best 3-year-old I've ever trained, and he has this acceleration, this quick turn of foot that can really catch a rider by surprise. So when you call upon him, you better be ready to go. And once you're ready to go, he's going to take you there. And so he's the kind of talent that really the game plan has to be just get out of his way, because he's going to go. And he's going to give you a kick that's longer than any horse I've trained, and he's going to give you an acceleration that's quicker than I've seen in most horses that tend to pick up races at the end of the race going around the ground. So I think Corey's comment after the Louisiana Derby was, "I had more horse than I knew what to do with," and therein lies probably the lead into your next question. Why is Corey still on the horse? And I'll answer that when you ask it, but those are some things you need to be thinking about when you're deciding, well, who's going to ride the horse in the next race if your current rider has gotten him in trouble a couple of times.
You have decided to leave him on for the Kentucky Derby. Tell us what went into that decision, and what have you and Corey talked about? I mean, you're going to face an 18, 19, quite possibly 20 horse field with a come-from-behind horse. How's it going to be different next Saturday?
So a couple of things that are worth talking about. We mentioned Mo Tom's characteristics, which are different than the ordinary horse. His immediate acceleration when you ask for it, and the fact that he's got a longer kick than most horses. So it's very, very difficult to explain that to someone that's never been on the horse in an actual race situation and expect them to trust you 100%. So when Mo Tom breaks in the gate, he switches off very quickly. And he can fool you, because what I mean by switching off is he relaxes completely. A lot of guys would sense him so relaxed and wonder, what do I have underneath me? And would test him a little bit at some point just to make sure he's there for them. And that would be a mistake, because once you do that, he's going to go. And, we've learned that through our experiences with him, and we feel that that's why, one of the reasons why it's important to have Corey on him. The second reason is, look, Corey is one of the top riders in the country, and he's been the leading rider here at Churchill Downs the last 3 meets in a row. He knows this track. He wins in this track. Why would you want someone else? So we're really pleased in that sense to have Corey. Now, as far as the trip, and we're probably going to be behind. It will be a 20-horse field, I'm sure. We'll probably be behind 17 or 18 of them. Yeah. So it is a matter of navigating yourself through a lot of traffic and doing it in a short period of time. The race is 1.25 miles, but when the running starts, it'll be about a half mile left of the race. So you've got to navigate your way through all those horses in about a half a mile, and that's a tough prospect, right? So I mean, all I can do is just tell Corey, ride your race.
Yeah.
There'll be no instructions like don't go to the rail or something like that. I mean, look, Corey's a pro, and no different than a quarterback in the NFL that gets beat for a touchdown. It's the next series of downs, so you come out and you forget about it and you play your game, and that's what we're going to do.
I actually want to take you and the audience back to the weeks leading up to the Florida Derby. Tell us, how was Mohaymen training coming up to the Derby?
Great. He's always trained very well. He's a very sound horse, moves great, happy, doing everything right. So we were happy and didn't think we could lose on Florida Derby Day as we trained up to it.
Oh, my goodness. So, Karen, had he missed any time? Did he miss a day of training? Did he cough once? Was he out of the feed tub? Was there anything out of the ordinary in the weeks and days leading up to the Florida Derby?
Not until race day, and then there was a lot of variables that are out of our control with the weather, very, very hot, humid. It rained plenty that day, and then the post position being outside 9 of 10, we lost a lot of ground. So during that day, there were a lot of variables out of our control. But prior to that, no issues whatsoever.
Wow. Well, let's go back and take a look at the Florida Derby for our audience. Mohaymen, number 9. Karen, as you said, and I told our audience leading into the race, people do not understand how difficult a post position this is. So tough post, presence of the unbeaten champ Nyquist, but you said a couple of minutes ago, even with those variables, you didn't think he could get beat this day?
No, we didn't think he could lose because he just was so special of a colt, and he was 5 for 5, so we didn't think we could lose, no, at all, even with the 9 posts and Nyquist in the race. We thought we were the best horse, and we would find a way to win.
So what do you think happened? You've been in this game a long time. You've seen nearly everything in this game. So as good as he was coming into the race, 4th beaten 8 lengths, what do you think happened?
Well, again, I think the trip just got us mostly the 54 feet further. If the length is 8 feet, that's almost as far as we got beat. But, and the track wasn't good where we were. Earlier in the day, Todd was 4 to 5 in the Oaks, and he had a similar trip as us out in the middle of the track. I don't think that was a place to be on this wet track that day. So that was one, and then running that Y. And we got beat by a very talented horse that's undefeated still. So we will say congratulations to Nyquist, but we think we can turn the tables next Saturday.
Karen, Junior Alvarado said that unlike the other races, when Mohaymen would basically take him into position without him having to ask, he had to ride him throughout this day just to get him into position. Do you think that means that he struggled with a racetrack?
Yes, I do. I feel like he did not like it, the track. He didn't love it. But I thought he would like it going in. We don't train on a wet track very often just for safety reasons.
He will have had 5 weeks between the Florida Derby and the Kentucky Derby. It appears right now, Karen, that he will only have 2 workouts in that 5-week time period. Is 2 workouts enough to have him fully primed to go 1.25 miles?
Yes, this horse is, interestingly enough, if he didn't have any work, he's fit to go 1.25 miles. He hasn't missed a day of training since we received him June 23rd, and he never blows. He moves great. He doesn't. If we didn't work him at all, he's fit enough to go 1.25 miles. But we just going to have 2 maintenance works, and he already had the one in 46 and 4, and so now we'll work back one more time, similar. Hopefully not 46 and 4, maybe 47 and 4. But he's doing great, and we don't need any more work. No.
Well, let's go back and take a look at that work from this past Wednesday at Churchill. You called it a maintenance work, a half mile in 46 and 4, out 5/8 and 59 and 3, and 3/4 and 12 and 4. You know, I've been watching you train for decades. I know the racetrack was fast this morning, but that's a quick work for a Kairian McLaughlin trained horse. Was it too fast, Kairian, or are you pleased completely with the way he did it?
I'm pleased completely. We anticipated a 47 and change work, and because coming out of Palmetto's is slower, deeper track, and it's very safe and great racetrack. But we came here, and it just felt like it's only 3 inches deep instead of 4 or 5 inches deep, and we felt like he was getting over it really well, and he would work fast. But 46 and 4 was a little quicker than we thought he would do, but he did it well within himself, and he came out of it in great shape. That's the most important thing.
You have described him in the past for us as kind of a light-framed colt. How has he been holding his weight?
He's a light-framed horse, but he's holding his weight well. He might even be putting on a few pounds since the Florida Derby. He has for sure put on a few pounds. But he's eating well here, and that's part of the reason that we shipped into Kentucky early. We haven't been here previously ever early to work a horse, except Closing Argument ran in the Bluegrass, so he was here. But we shipped in early to get out of the heat in Florida. But it's been pretty damn hot here, but it's cool in the morning. So he's eating well, and he's happy, and grazing 3 times a day, so it's helped him put on some weight.